Hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I'm going to be showing you a quick how-to video on making a béchamel. A béchamel is one of the 5 mother sauces of French cuisine. The other 5 including a velouté, espagnole, a sauce tomate, and hollandaise, or the hollandaise sauce. 4 of the 5 sauces, including the béchamel, include what we call is a roux, which is the base for the sauces. A roux is equal parts fat and flour. In this case, my fat is going to be butter, but you can also use different types of oils or lard, any kind of fat. With that being said, the equal parts, I'm only using 1 tablespoon of butter. I've got my burner on a very low heat with my pan so the butter melts nice and evenly without burning. Once the butter melts, I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 tablespoon of flour, and that'll turn into a nice thick paste. To go back into the background of what each of the sauces are, the roux depends on the color. So the base of the sauce, if I'm using a lighter roux for the béchamel or the velouté, it gives it a nice lighter texture. The béchamel is a creamier sauce, which we would use for a lot of mac and cheeses, biscuits and gravy, chicken pot pie, a nice fettuccine alfredo. We would start with the béchamel as the base. The velouté, rather than mixing in milk or cream, we would mix in different stocks, so vegetable stock, chicken stock, beef stock, and that is what we would use to make most gravies. The espagnole is a darker sauce, which requires a darker roux, meaning that we would let the roux cook and simmer for a little bit longer until the flour turns into a nice dark brown color, giving a darker taste. The sauce tomate is a medium roux, so we would cook it kind of in between until it's a nice medium brown color. The hollandaise sauce is the one that's different, that doesn't require a roux, rather it's egg yolk and fat. And this one's kind of interesting because it's a stable mix of 2 things that aren't normally blended together, so it has to be perfected pretty well in order for them to cook right, or else it's going to not blend and look kind of interesting. So now that my butter is nice and melted, I'm going to go ahead and add in my tablespoon of flour. Once I do this, I want to keep mixing it pretty well until it turns into a nice paste. I want to stay away from bubbling. And here is where the chemistry part of the roux and French cuisine comes in, and I find this pretty fascinating. So once I mix the butter and the flour, my roux turns into a nice paste. And it seems kind of interesting that this little paste is what you would use to make most of your sauces. I'm going to let this simmer until I let it get a little bit thicker, a little bit darker of a color. And then all I'm going to do, the next step for making the béchamel and why this is so cool and easy, all I'm going to do is add milk. So I have my texture that I like, pretty thick, just a small little glob. I'm going to add in a little bit of milk, little by little, until I get the desired texture that I would like. It's important to mix right away because we don't want the milk to burn. And again, once I add the milk, it's going to keep getting thicker and thicker until you get the right lightness and equal parts, or good ratio, I should say. So even still as I'm whisking, I have a pretty thick paste going on. And I'm going to keep whisking this part until I get it nice and even, so there's no blobs. I'm going to add a little bit more milk. Whisk that out some more. And typically with the roux and the béchamel, you only use 3 different spices: pepper, salt, and nutmeg, making this one of the easiest that you could do. And my favorite part is that it tastes so good, and you can mix it with other cheeses, other creams, and it's just thick and hearty and delicious, and who doesn't love a good cream sauce? The other thing that I find interesting is how easy this sauce is. And when you tell people that you have to make a roux or a béchamel, they look at you like, oh, it's so crazy, it's so much, it must be so difficult, but it's taking me 5 minutes to make. So there I have my nice desired texture. It's a pretty thick sauce. And I'm gonna let that simmer, let it thicken up a little bit more. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my pepper, a bit of salt, and a bit of nutmeg for seasoning. And nutmeg goes delicious with milks and creams, so that's why we add that in there. And then I'm going to whisk that in. And this sauce should look very similar to what you might see for biscuits and gravy. In that case, you would go ahead and add in your sausage, add in your beef, whatever you're using, and that is that. And now that I have that all whisked in, there we have it, the Béchamel. I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Thank you again for listening.